it kind of jumps right in there. So just be ready. It says, as for those agitators, I wish they could go the whole way and emasculate themselves. So my question is, does a verse like this convey God's heart towards the matter? If so, explain. If not, then why is it in the Bible?
N.T. Wright says that there was pagan goddess rituals that led to castration and things like that. And Paul is saying, you're acting just like the pagans. If you're still insisting on this, you might as well go the whole way and just be like those pagans. I just think that Paul was super mad and he blew his top. That's what I
So do you think it does not therefore convey the heart of God? Because it's Paul just getting ticked off and going too far?
You know what? I have read a lot of Old Testament scripture where God was pretty mad. So I'm not saying it.
Paul was like, when you take into context all of what Paul was saying at this time to this group of people, and not just snippets of Galatians, but other.
Can you not use the word snippet when we're talking about this?
Sure. Other short segments. No, not getting any better.
That's worse.
Okay. Other passages that Paul was saying and conveying to these people at the time, in other books of the Bible or in similar situations, I kind of feel like he was like, okay, maybe if I am more blunt. He does seem very emotional. This is a really emotional statement. I feel like he was trying to jar them. Like, I've tried to say this nicely. I mean, and we've all done this to people. I've said it 3 different ways. I've said it 10 different ways. It very much is, look, if you're going to be a little bit doing the false gospel, if you're going to be a little bit deriding God's call on our lives, if you're going to be a little bit like doing your own version of a Messiah that I don't know, then I wish you would go all the way, like what Melissa was saying, and just be pagans. You either get on board or you go all the way off, because this dancing around and messing with people's souls and their faith and their belief in the youth of their brand new faith is unacceptable. And he said something very jarring that I think made everybody like, well, like we still do today. Oh my gosh.
What do you think God was thinking when he wrote that?
I think no one understands frustration with humans and their tendency to be fair weather believers like God does. So I don't think this was a surprise to God at all. And I think he has said,
you think God's up there applauding? Like, yes,
yeah,
my Bible just got better.
Yeah. And so maybe if I use the use the metaphor of completely emasculating yourself, then maybe you will like pay attention for a second. I don't know.
Brilliant too. That was my favorite like section on NT, right? I think this chapter. But the things that he says, like Alex, you pointed out, that means they can't reproduce. Like, that's significant. Mm-hmm. He's pointing out that it means that they wouldn't have been able to be welcome in the temple because of that. So they don't even get to be part of that community they're trying so hard to be part of. And then also it just ties brilliantly into what Paul is telling them, which is cut them off. So I think it's hilarious and brilliant and straight to the point.
I think that if the Bible and if God didn't use, I don't know if this is the right word, but like provocative language, or a language that really got people to pay attention, people wouldn't get the message a lot of the time. And I think it's a lot more effective. And so I think it does convey
the heart of God.
I mean, it's what gets it across to us.
I wonder if Paul was hearkening back to Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, where he makes some rather ridiculous, radical statements. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. And some people think they don't know what to do with that. And I like James Bryant Smith says that Jesus is using an argument called a reductio ad absurdum, which is he's making a point by going over the top. Like, of course, he doesn't want you to cut your hand off and to gouge your eyes out. The point Jesus is making is you can't modify your heart by external action. So let's make this ridiculous. Here's where this will end up. And so maybe Paul is copying Jesus and doing a reductio ad absurdum and saying, if you're so into this, then cut the whole thing off and be like the followers of Cybele, the goddess who gets people to castrate themselves, which, by the way, it's so interesting. We become like what we worship, and to me, it speaks of sexual confusion in our culture, same-sex attraction, and really, in effect, what it does is it keeps you from reproducing, and what a cruel cult in Galatia, where people would eventually castrate themselves, and the cruel irony that demons are getting you to stop from reproducing, so maybe Paul is just not just flipping his lid and saying cut it off. Maybe he's saying here's where this leads you. If you abandon life, then there is no reproduction, so you might as well cut it off.
I guess I'm not surprised, but I'm a little bit sad that nobody had the alternate view, because I was just really excited to hear if that was the case. Let's see what their viewpoints are. It sounds like we're all kind of in agreement on that, which I guess is a good thing, but it's also a little bit sad for the antagonist, or not the antagonist, the contrarious in me.
The alternate view being this shouldn't be in scripture.
This is not God's feelings about this at all.
I think that you guys did great. I'm glad we got to talk through my questions.